Hello, it's Mike Childress, and I am here with a fantastic panelist of people I think never before seen all together. The Education and Professionalism Task Force has tasked us to have a 3-on-3 paneling conversation about our experiences and fantastic longevity in our business. So could I have each one of you introduce yourselves? We start with Ed.
Ed Hansen. I'm with Keller Williams North, and I'm in my 40th year.
Hello, I'm Jodi Smith, and I work for eXp Realty, and I've been in the business 26 years.
Walter Perschbacher. I'm with Greenridge Realty, and I've been in the business 18 years.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. Just to reiterate, we have Jodi Smith is our outgoing president for 2021. Ed Hansen is our incoming president for 2022, and Walter Perschbacher is our president-elect for 2023. So today we're kind of giving a past, present, and future look at our real estate industry. So briefly, Ed, I want to start with you. Tell us what real estate looked like when you got in the business and how it's evolved, and a few things that you thought it might have changed since you've got in the business.
Sure. Is there a reason that you said briefly and looked at me at the same time?
No, take your time.
40 years ago, Steve Faye stopped at my house and gave me a red book, said, study it, you're taking the exam on Saturday. So that's how I got started in the business. But to me, the big difference is, this is an MLS card. This is the picture of the house, and every single thing that you need to know was on here. So it was kind of a hoot back then. Every morning we'd hurry to the office to get a packet that was delivered by GRAR. I don't know if there was 40, 50 of these cards in there. We'd sort through them. I'd go, oh, this card might be good for this person or that one. And so it was just different in that manner. The way I recall, if there wasn't open houses, I would never find a way to pick up clients. So for me, it was doing open houses and just nose to the grind. It was 18% interest. It was a tough market, but fortunately, when you start out in that environment, you don't realize it. But that's how things got started. The other thing that's key for me was expectations were so different. Today, I get a phone call. If I don't answer it, I get a text within 30 seconds, and I get an email. Back then, little pink slips on my desk when I came to the office, and expectations were hopefully I got back to somebody by the next day. So those differences are key, and the way we communicate is huge. Mm-hmm. And I think with that, I'll let you guys comment.
Jodi?
Right. Thanks, Ed. I love it. I got to tell you, I kind of started right about that same time where the cards were still being used. I had email. We had an email address and a fax machine. That's what we had. We had carbon copies of our purchase agreement. I think we had a yellow, a pink, a white, right? What I found, how I got into the business is with Tom Kuiper. Tom knew my mother, and Tom was my realtor. And I wanted to get into real estate because I wanted that flexibility, being a mom and then having a career. And I called Tom, and I started working for Tom at Pearson Cook in 1995. So I kind of went backwards here. Then I started to get my license. I met with David Geldof. I kind of had a crush on David. Imagine that. Did a 40-hour class where you had to meet Monday through Friday, and I think it was in the Westdale office.
Yep, 300 East Beltline.
Yep. And Ed, you were one of the first people I talked to about getting into real estate, and I don't think you took me real seriously, but that's a whole nother story. I had to add that.
Yeah.
And what I really loved is two things. I really loved that I only had voicemail at the office phone. So I could wait until the next morning to check my voicemails if I had any, right? And I remember there was a big shot in our office, and he had a pager. And I was like, wow, you must sell a lot of real estate. You have a pager. So I thought that was pretty fascinating. And I kind of wished for those days because, like you said, you're on 24, you're on all the time. And if you don't answer their call. So I want to tell you, I enjoyed that pace a lot better. And the expectations were different from our clients and other realtors. The other thing I really miss is the face-to-face. I built some great relationships with beautiful realtors. Literally, we're just sitting there talking at the car before and after we met with their seller or my seller. And I missed the opportunity to talk to the seller about my client and about the offer. And if they had any questions about the offer, I could address it right then and there. And boy, I wish I could do that now. So that's what I miss.
I miss that a lot too.
Walter?
So I started late 2004. And so as you can imagine, as I just started to get my feet under me, the world kind of changed. We saw mid-2007 just one of the worst economic declines we've ever seen, especially for the real estate industry. Funny enough, you guys talked about technology. So when I started, we did have an online MLS system, but it was early stages. At that point, Greenridge was still giving out a desk phone, an email address, a fax number, and a pager. That was just standard issue. Wow. Plus you had cell phones. And so it was this place in time with technology where your business card, it was important to show how many ways somebody could reach you, right? Like, let me get as many points of contact on here to show you that I'm successful and reachable, right? And so it's really funny because it's all shifted down to one device now, right? It's all right there with everything with it. So I had seen sort of the technology move. I got into the business as a fourth generation realtor. So it was just in my family and in my blood, and decided to move forward with it. But what was really interesting was watching the real estate market really go through a heavy decline in a really short period of years. And it was interesting on a variety of levels, but one was just to even watch how newer agents versus experienced agents adapted to the changing market and what it did, what it was doing. And so, as Ed said, you got in, interest rates are really high, right? Yeah. I got in, and there was, I think, a 15, 16-month supply of homes. 50% of the sales on any given month were encumbered by short sale or foreclosure. The average sale price slipped in Grand Rapids to just under $100,000. I think it was $98,000 or $99,000. And properties were losing value quickly, and so that created its own set of challenges in its own market. But was able to build my business during that time, and it taught me some lessons that at the end of the day, no matter what the market is, residential real estate will keep moving. West Michigan's a great place to be, and you just need to be able to adapt your conversation, your sales tactics, and your view of the market to be able to succeed no matter what that market's doing.
Yeah, I'm going to add two quick things. I left it open just for you, Walter, but here's the one of the huge differences. Companies like, even back then, in the early days, Greenridge, Westdale, like 5, 6, 7, 8 pages in the Grand Rapids Press of full color ads. I would love to know how much they spent on that. I'm sure they're still shivering about it. The other thing that I thought was unique is the purchase agreements back then were 11 inches wide and 14 inches long. There were 5 copies. You had to press hard because everyone got a copy when they signed it. And just a little side note, my very first transaction, wrote the offer, so excited, stood up to walk away, and you could read everything I pushed hard through the 5 pages on the table. So my first commission, I refinished the tape.
That's fantastic.
So I'm glad we've changed.
That's fantastic. You know what I take away from like just myself is from the comments that all three of you have said is a couple things, is being nimble in the market. So over the past 20 years-ish or longer, that our real estate industry and agents are able to adapt and be very, very nimble and change to whatever happens as the market goes forward. And different people individually have made a big impact in your lives. So like this individual person got you in the business. They might not remember the conversation, but they touched you in a special way to help you get in the business. So I really do appreciate that, and know it's happened to me as well. Next thing I want to go to is important issues that you think our industry is facing, and best practices or opportunities that we have that we can be nimble and change. Ed, can you speak to that?
I'm going to let Jodi go first on this one.
Well, fantastic, Jodi. Let her rip.
All right, so Mike, I had asked you last week about how to answer that, because I'm always thinking of, and you suggested just think about it from your perspective, what you see, and obviously you always are thinking of the big picture, but how does it affect me right now? And I have to tell you, even right now this morning or before I went to bed last night, I'm sitting here thinking I was feeling stressed about a transaction I'm working on. And it's like you're always tweaking your language. You kind of suggested that you're always tweaking your language. You got to know your market. You got to know what you're talking about. You got to watch the market. You got to see what's changing with pricing, with demand, supply. You just have to keep watching it, and it keeps changing so quickly. I think it's changing quicker and quicker. I think you just have to really know your language, but I think the most important issue right now I feel we have as realtors is I definitely think we're relevant. I think it's just we have to be tweaking that skill set so that we can predict the problems that our clients are going to deal with in an ever-changing market and ever-changing times. And I think we also have to know how to solve those problems for our clients before they become problems, or how can you address those immediately. And I think you just have to really I don't care if you've been doing it 5 years or 40 years, like you just have to keep tweaking that because it keeps changing.
I'd build a little bit off of where I started in business, because as of that point in time, I said, there was an online MLS. One of the big debates we were going through was, do we publish MLS data to the public?
Yep.
Do we make it available via our website, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was, I guess, 18 years ago, which seems wild. But Ed showed you the card. The realtors used to control all the information. That was kind of this comfortable sense of power, if you will, that allowed them to say, if you want the data, you want the information, you need to come to me. I never really experienced that time because we were, at that point, already in the posture of we're going to give the public more information. And that data revolution, that data opening up and that data share has really impacted our industry in a major way. And I think it's impacted it for the better. I don't think it's impacted it for the worse. I'm not running scared in any way, shape, or form. But I would say, not necessarily looking at everything we have to deal with day to day, the relevancy piece is hugely important. But on a bigger industry and association level, there are greater players in the marketplace, and there are greater forces out there that are taking this data and really turning it into powerful action in terms of where you find buyers, where you find sellers, how do you get to the lead first. And they're able to do that because they don't have these artificial borders that we've created with MLSs and associations. And so I think as an industry, us getting clear about the data, which is still the same concept, right? This is the same idea we were talking about 18 years ago. It's just morphed in a different way of how do we control the data and how do we better not control the access, but control the information that we can pull out of it. We've got more access to it than we've ever had before. I believe that makes the market stronger. Buyers are more intelligent, sellers are more intelligent, and that only helps us as we help them navigate the market. So data is one thing that's out there for me. And then what's old is new again. What's always held true is we regularly talk at the board about professionalism. And professionalism to me gets right down to education and support and accountability that's provided at the broker level. And we've seen more people get into this business than we've ever had before. There's more realtors today than there ever have been before. And we're doing less transactions than we have in a long time. And so the pie is getting narrower, if you will, in terms of the amount of people that can have there's more people trying to take a bite at the same piece of pie. And I believe that training and education and accountability at the broker level specifically has gone way down, especially in the last 5 to 10 years. And that lack of training, support, accountability creates a lack of professionalism. It breeds out of that. And that affects all of us. That affects all of us in terms of how well we can do our business. It affects all of us in terms of what it means for us in terms of what we charge for our business and everything down to it. So I think, getting our hands better around the data and breaking down some of these industry walls that we've created and really raising our level of standard for what a realtor is and what the professionalism means are two things that our industry are facing right now that are in no way or shape or form new concepts, but just the latest iteration of these concepts that we need to work on.
Perfect. Yeah, that was good, Walter. Make no mistake, the product that we sell is expensive. $200 and some thousand average sale price homes. So everybody wants a piece of it. And as was mentioned, everyone's getting in the business, big players. Information is always what people are fighting for. But at the end of the day, some of the things that don't change is our professionalism. But from the standpoint of we need to be all things real estate. We need to dig deep and learn about all aspects of what we do to keep our clients engaged in coming to us. So it's just a matter of it's really a lot different, but yet pretty much the same. So with all the competition that we will always have and will always be growing, and the competition will always be big in larger scale, we need to focus in on what's most important to us. And for most of us, that's West Michigan. So focus in, take care of our clients, and sell your value constantly. We'll do fine.
Fantastic.
Can I add a couple
Yes,
things,
please.
Mike? Based on what Walter was saying, I really liked what he was talking about, the data. That's a big thing. And what I keep telling my clients, and this is not the best analogy, but it's one I think about. Let's say you feel like you've got some kind of symptom and you look up things on the internet. There's so much things available. Like you look up things, okay? Well, then your doctor will interpret that for you, right? I feel as realtors, when you really are watching what's going on, what the data your clients are seeing, the public's seeing, and you are interpreting it for your clients. So I think that's kind of what you were saying. I just wanted to clarify that. And then also, we all talked about professionalism, education a little bit, but the resources are out there. We have to use them. It's like sometimes it's not a lack of education, it's a lack of using the resources, right? We've talked about that on the board, and we've talked about it as brokers. It's not that, our brokerages aren't offering that information. We just have to take an hour, even if you just start with 1 hour a week, just start. I was watching a video yesterday. I'm sitting here going, I think I should teach this, but you still have to watch things and find out what other agents are doing. Put your pride aside. Sometimes I've even noticed this. Sometimes I've been doing things the way I do it, and then I see how somebody else is doing. I'm like, oh, I kind of like that. I never thought of that. So I think you have to, no matter how long you've been doing something and it's been successful, you might be even a better way. So keep educating yourself because it's out there. That information's out there.
Fantastic.
So, sorry.
Well, and piggyback on just the education and knowledge and different things like that. Quite often, I think members, especially if they're new and they're in the business or have had their head in the sand, I'm not sure which one, but when you don't know what you don't know, and if you haven't tried to become something more or something else, I kind of look at the differences. All these different people getting in the business. Some of them have a career in mind, and they want to learn, and they want to get better, and they want to do it. Other people say, well, you know what? I couldn't make it doing anything else, so I thought I'd get my realtor's license. And so what makes you different by becoming a realtor or a professional real estate person or professional real estate salesperson that is a member of our realtor community and knows their numbers, knows their information, and knows everything else. So what I would do is what personal advice would you give members to be successful and have a longevity in their careers? Ed, let's start with you.
Good. I'm glad I'm going first because this is, to me, it's simple. You'll find that through all your education, training, what you learn, there's 100 different ways to generate and keep your business. But at the end of the day, there's a very few things that are the most successful. And so for me, I wish what I have done better is we work like dogs when we get started. We meet, we get clients, we grow our business, but starting a database and working it the right way, by far, without question, is the single best thing you can do as an individual salesperson. People love to do business with people they know and trust. And once you gain somebody at that level, you need to find ways to stay in touch. And when you know that after your first 3 years in the business that over half your business should come from referrals, there are so many of you out there that have a successful business and 80% of your business comes from just the phone ringing or email or a text coming in. So it's really work that database. The second best thing is to be prudent with what you spend and how you spend it and realize where that money should go. And as soon as you're able, you need to find good admin person. You don't need to do a bunch of things that you're currently doing. And I'm not saying you need to grow a team of a bunch of people, but I think having a person, an admin, can really open things up for you to grow your business. And that's what I want to preach always to the people I talk to is work your database.
Jodi?
I love everything you said, absolutely. What I had thought of is just do the right thing. You do the right thing, with your fellow realtor. You do the right thing with your clients. You'll get repeat business. Be authentic, be yourself, and you'll attract the people that you want to work with. And then it doesn't feel like work. I mean, if you're into a hobby, a sport, be authentic, be yourself. Don't do it because you want to try to meet people, but do it because it's something you truly enjoy doing, and then you're going to meet like-minded people, and they're going to trust you, just like you said. And then that relationship is easier to. So those are kind of my grows, or things I've learned. My biggest regret is I think the agents in the business now can do it so much better than I could when I first got started. You and I would have done any county, basically, right? And a lot of times we're seeing agents doing that now because of lack of inventory. I get that. Figure out your specialty and stick with that and master it. Just figure out what you're really good at, what you really like. If it's condos, if it's land, if it's investment property, just get really, really good at that and be that person, be that expert. I wish I would have done that.
Walter, what do you got?
We're not supposed to say ditto, right? But I want to say,
Right. Hey, ditto, right? See that? We wanted to.
database. Ed hit the nail on the head. It is your lifeblood. It is your business. Everything is tied back to that database, and the vast majority of realtors don't have it. And if they do, it's a shoebox full of receipts and names and scraps of paper. And let's face it, we can just do better. What's the NAR statistic? I think it's 87% or 89% of people, when surveyed after their transactions, say we would either highly recommend or strongly recommend our agent to anyone, and we would use them again in the future transaction. 80, again, upper 80%. The number that actually does, 27%.
Yeah.
We got a huge gap there, and it's that gap that comes from a couple of things. Number one, realtors who aren't in the business long enough, so we have orphan clients. But most importantly, number two, is realtors who don't stay in touch.
Yeah.
And it kills me as somebody who runs a larger brokerage when I run into somebody who says, what do you do? And I say, work for Greenridge. And they say, great, we used a Greenridge agent. They were fantastic. We loved them. We had the best experience. And I say, wonderful. Who did you use? And they say, we don't remember. And you're like, we missed it. We missed a step here. And so after transaction, after closing, follow-up is so important in staying in touch. And so remember, two other pieces. Number one is it's all about relationships. Both of you have touched on this. This business is all about relationships, and the stronger you can build them, the stronger your business will become. But don't forget that this is a real privilege to do what we do. Real estate has become very approachable, and that's thanks to a low barrier of entry in terms of being able to get in. And there's strength and weakness that comes from that. Number two is HGTV, our best friend and our worst enemy, right? But it makes it a conversation topic for anywhere. And people are seeing what we do on a regular basis. And it's just we show 3 houses, and then we have a glass of wine, and we sign a contract, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just an everyday thing.
And redo the kitchen for $10,000.
For $10,000. And so it's a wonderful thing. And that's why I say, but again, pluses and minuses. It makes it conversational, and the more you're talking about it, the more chance you have of finding a transaction and creating a relationship. The piece HGTV misses is that we're counselors. We are counselors way more than we are salespeople, because people don't usually choose to buy or sell a home on a whim. It's not like they wake up and they say, hey, I think I'm going to sell today, or I think I'll go buy a house, right? There's a small niche of investors who may do this, and they say they want to do it, but usually it's the sale of the purchase or sale is tied to some other big life happening, right? I mean, how often have you guys worked with clients where it's like, I just changed jobs, we're about to have a baby, and it's our 5-year wedding anniversary or whatever. Let's buy a house, right? I mean,
Right.
and so there's all this emotion that's wrapped up in what is already an emotional transaction. That's what we get to help with. That's what makes residential real estate so special, is there's all this emotion tied to it. So we get to help with that. But we also navigate this period in time where they're going through other highly emotional and potentially stressful things. And so every day, my partner Adam likes to say, he's like, we're messing with people's lives. Our real estate license gives us the ability to mess with people's lives. And hopefully we're doing that in a positive way, because not only is it highly emotional, but for most people, as Ed said, it's a big transaction. It's the biggest financial piece of their portfolio in their life. Mm-hmm. And we get to enter into their life for a brief period in time where we're closely communicating and counseling and talking with them. And that's just a really important and a really cool ability that we get by doing this profession. And so the last thing I'll say for longevity in the business is, as long as you're maintaining your database, take care of your relationships, it'll keep going. As long as you are making sure you're a counselor and not a salesperson, it's going to keep going. You're going to have success. And last is a bit of advice my dad gave me. I'm sure he said it to Ed before. He says it to everybody, is that real estate is not a job or a career, it's a lifestyle. And if you can live the lifestyle, it will treat you really well. If you can't, it can eat you alive. And that's very true, especially in today of, I got a text, an email, a phone call within 5 minutes. Some of us thrive on that and thrive on that pace and get used to it. And I understand when you can set boundaries and stuff, but at the end of the day, the pace of business moves at the pace it's going to move at, and you can choose to be in that flow or out of it. And so I've always viewed it as a lifestyle, not a job, and that has helped me immensely in terms of when that late phone call comes in, or when that weekend deal issue comes up. I know that, hey, this is just something I've signed up for, and I couldn't be happier or more proud to do it.
Perfect. Let me add one more that you didn't think about, and what I want to do is say to the agents that are been in the business a long time and or brand new in this industry, is when people get in the business and they want actionable items, like what can I actually do? And I think it kind of speaks to you because you love the action. What's going to happen step by step? And if you let me wave a magic wand real quick, y'all got licensed today, boom. You don't have any real estate customers. You barely know what you're doing. You just passed the test. What's the first thing you're going to do in the next 30 days? Ed, go ahead.
I'm going to call everybody I know, for sure. But if you're saying there isn't anybody, the very first thing I would do is I would find somebody in my office that has inventory, and I'd do an open house. That's what I would do first.
Would you like to get in front of people?
Okay.
You do well in front of people.
And what's the next thing you would do right after you did the open house and you called everybody you knew?
If you're starting out and you have no people, and you have no family, and you have nobody to reach out to, you've got to get involved with something that you're passionate about, and you need to find a way to meet people. That's simple. So I don't care which way you do it, whether it's at least with an open house, you're attracting people that might have an interest in buying something. So I think that's a good start, but that's where I would start day one.
Fantastic.
I like that.
Talking to people. Jodi, what do you got?
I want to hear Walter's next. No, sorry.
So I'll go, yeah. So
I'll fill in.
I guess I'll cheat a little. I'm going to say you do know some people, because I think it's really important to get in.
What the heck? That's not what he asked.
I don't think he said you don't know anybody. I think you interpreted it that way.
Right.
You were listening to the question.
Blew into town, right?
So it's anybody. You open the phone book and you start dialing. But no, if you know somebody, you got to start the database. You got to create it, and then it's calling everybody that already knows, likes, and trusts you, and getting them to meet with you for a cup of coffee, and hopefully do, if they own real estate, a real estate review for them. And that's a quick snapshot of what their home's worth. And I think you're providing something of value when you do that for them. It lets them know the current value of their home and where they're at, which also allows you to practice pricing. It has you in the marketplace feeling active and looking at comps and doing things that way. And because the market's moving the way it is, you're usually delivering good information right now, or fun information, because prices have gone up. Yep. And we just find it's one of those ways that can really actually lead to business when you sit down with somebody and say, did you know your home is actually worth X? So I'd say, anybody you know, like, and trust, and doing those real estate reviews, which is just sort of a down and dirty CMA and meeting from there.
That can be with your soccer coach. That can be with your pastor. That can be with your title insurance or a homeowner's insurance, for anybody that you may interact with. And that's a great thought. Jodi, what do you got?
I like what these,
Ditto.
both of these. Yeah, ditto. Okay. I have had some great conversations this past year with some very successful realtors in the last 2-3 years, and they're in their 20s or 30s, and I'm jealous how they've just been able to capture such a great business so young. Because I started when I was 29, and I came out of the gate really, really slow, like really slow. Like if I was a horse, they would have shot me. No, I'm sorry, but but I would do social media. It just because that's what they said. I said, "What? How did you do this? How have you become so successful so quickly?" And they said, "Social media." And that's not what I was raised in. That's not what I started in. I'm okay doing it. I don't do much of it now, but I know Walter probably would love to just do a bunch of Facebook. But I'll tell you, when you're showing that you're active, and still, I think you always have to keep picking up that phone. I think that sounds old school, but I have found every generation wants to have a voice, and they want to hear from you. And so I think it's so easy now. If people don't want to see you face to face, you can do a quick Zoom meeting or Zoom appointment. And so I just think getting that way in front of people would be a way I do it too. So.
Fantastic. Thanks for that little extra. It's always kind of the thought of we're salespeople in name, but at the end of the day, we're not really selling anything. They already want to buy or sell a house. We're just helping them do it in the most productive and helpful manner, and then hopefully be remembered when they want to buy or sell it again. But anyway, thank you so much. I think this has been a fantastic opportunity. We have a powerhouse of people here that we've been able to chit-chat with for a moment, and I appreciate all of you. I think you're just top-notch people in our industry that are great leaders, and in our membership, I know that ditto that as well. Anyway, happy holidays, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank
Happy
you.
holidays.
Happy
Thank you.
holidays.